Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, and here's another random review. This is one that's I've been asked about a lot, and you figured, what the hell, why not check it out? Found it for super cheap, and that is the 2017 black comedy slasher film, Happy Death Day. Now, this was a movie I put off for a while. I always knew it was a slasher film, but I couldn't get past Blumhouse. Couldn't get past Blumhouse or PG-13. I was just like, what's the point of a PG-13 slasher film? And, which I'll get into that. And it was one that it felt it looked like another CW PG-13 Blumhouse film. And just the more I heard people talk about how awesome it is, I was like, how can it be awesome if it has those things going for it? And I finally checked it out, and it's a lot better than I expected. I can say I like the film. It's definitely an original idea for a slasher film, as far as slasher films alone go. But I can't say I love it. I appreciate the humor that's in it, but it has its problems. So it was directed by Christopher Landon, who he wrote the first five Paranormal Activities, great. Disturbia, and he directed this and its sequel, Happy Death Day to You. He's the son of Michael Landon from Bonanza fame. Okay. Oh, and he directed and co-wrote Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which is a bad movie. So, yeah, not that many great projects under his name. He did direct the fifth Paranormal Activity. And it was written by Scott Lobdell, who's also a comic book writer, mainly for Marvel. Closest he's written to Batman was, he wrote, pre-Crisis and I think New 52, Red Hood and the Outlaws. And there's some controversy around him. Apparently there was some racist remarks on Twitter, some sexual harassment. So moving away from him. Even though I'll give him credit for writing this, because like I said, it is an original idea for a slasher film. Which, how many different directions can you take a slasher film? The 80s alone, everything was done. What's interesting about this is the body count that makes up to make it a slasher film is all one person. It's the same victim over and over and over again. Because the story is essentially Groundhog's Day meets Scream. Because you have, Jessica Roth plays this college student who is murdered on her birthday. And every day after that, she relives the same day. It's the same, just like Groundhog's Day. It's the same things. The day plays out exactly the same until she figures out who's trying to kill her. And the look of the killer is kind of... I understand this is also a comedy. So, black pants, black hoodie, and like a baby mask. Which, I guess the baby image is the college's mascot. So, yeah. It's not scary or intimidating. I guess it's just supposed to be, that's the joke. Slasher killers wear masks. Or tend to. I can say that I like Jessica Roth's arc. She plays... I want to get her character's name, because I already don't remember. Well, she goes by her nickname, Teresa. Everyone calls her Tree. She starts off as just your typical horrible person. And they nailed this sort of sorority, co-ed archetype. Completely self-centered, you know, always walks around in like yoga pants and hooker heels, always rolling her eyes at everybody and watches Teen Mom, says bye. So yeah, she's a terrible person. Ignores her dad's call on her birthday. Has just as self-centered, awful, similar archetype friends within her sorority. Like one of the things she relives is like the head house sister or whatever they call her calls out this one sister for drinking chocolate milk because there's fat in it. And it's like, is that chocolate milk? Like, you're gonna get fat. We are kappas or whatever. It's just like, why can't this be a regular slasher film so they can die? But as the film goes on, there's a period where, kind of like Bruce Almighty, she kind of plays with her slate being wiped clean every day. Like, there's one point where she even just walks around naked just because no one's going to remember this. But then, as it goes on, her morale changes. She goes through, like, a rebirth of changing her outlook on life and knowing who her friends are. She keeps waking up in the dorm of this one kid, Carter, who at first is treated like a nobody, played by Israel Broussard. He's always just like, hey, he's kind of timid. It's like, I don't think you remember my name, but I folded your clothes. It's hinted that they had a party and had sex the night before. They never met, but he didn't take advantage of her. He, one of the events that plays out every day is he bumps into her and gives her a bracelet that she left in his dorm. He's actually a decent guy, but she keeps going after, she goes after this one professor and doctor who's married. Goes after other guys that her friends are into, typical college frat douchebags. And Jessica Roth she does good with the comedy. She does do a good performance. I could say, whether she's being a complete sorority bitch or she get all the way until she gets more and more sincere. She does give a good performance. And it doesn't feel like a rehash of these movies like Groundhog Day or was it Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, where it's sort of relived the same day over and over again. They even mention Groundhog Day in this. Because Carter, we see his dorm a bunch of times because that's where she keeps waking up. He's got a poster of, They Live, John Carpenter's They Live, 80s punk bands. And eventually, at the end, he does mention, kind of like Groundhog Day. And she's just like, what's Groundhog Day? And that's how it ends. I can say for a Blumhouse film, this movie is... It is one of the better Blumhouse films, I can say that. But the PG-13, and I'm not saying all horror movies have to be rated R. There are some good PG-13 horror movies. I would say Insidious. That's a good one. I even liked... I had my issues with it, but I did like Lights Out. I did like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was, based on kids' books anyway. There are some good PG-13 horror films. Hell, there's some good PG horror films. Jaws, Poltergeist. But if you're going to do a slasher film, I feel like slashers really should be rated R, you know, and the idea of so I can't really call this a Renaissance slasher because they're really not bringing back the 80s. It doesn't feel like that at all, except for maybe some of the stalk and slash scenes. But with a concept like this, where this girl wakes up and relives the same day every day, why not go hog wild with it and make it? I'm not saying it has to look like Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, but have some blood in there, for fuck's sake. I mean, her first death is, she looks up and screams, and it's implied that the knife goes like in her face or down her throat. I will say the way they take care of that is every time she gets killed, we hear the church bell outside, and like an alarm, and it's her like jerking out of bed. Which I don't know if that counts as a dream fake out sequence because she is awake. It is actually happening, but it plays out that way. It almost feels like, hey, here's a way we can do our beloved, because we're Blumhouse, our beloved dream fake out sequence, but it makes sense. Or it's a parody of it. Or that's just how they treated the deaths and waking up. I mean, it was about as watered down as like the Prom Night remake. And Prom Night is a PG-13 slasher film. That's why you don't do PG-13 slasher films. It feels watered down. It feels neutered. If you're going to do a slasher film, just go all out with rated R. Again, it doesn't have to be a Saw film. But have some blood in there, for fuck's sake. And this is a gorehound like me, who believes in the gore the merrier. It is like, also be realistic with it. I mean, someone getting stabbed, you don't have to make it look like, it doesn't have to be like Terrifier, as fun as that movie is, but, and towards the end, she does build her morale. She does try to solve her own murder, because one of the days when her and Carter are talking, he's like, you can always get close to him, figure out who it is. Which, I mean, this movie could have been solved in one day. Get close enough, rip the mask off. If you get killed, you'll remember who it is, then go after him. But it doesn't, and we do get a montage of her dying, getting killed in various ways as she tries to eliminate her suspect list. Which, imagine Ace Ventura when he's going around looking at everyone's ring to see if they have the missing gem. But every time he sees someone with the ring, he gets killed. And he's still able to eliminate that person off the list. It's kind of like that. There is a twist at the end, which I won't get into yet. But, she really does start off as a terrible fucking person. And her sorority friends are just as, pathetically useless and awful. So when bad things happen to them, it is awesome. At least she goes through an arc. At least she does start off as just, the bottom of the barrel type of person. Bye. Watching Teen Mom. And just, it's like, always on her phone. Whatever. Goes from being that kind of shitty person all the way up to, apologizing to her dad for ignoring his calls because you find out her and her mom share a birthday and she died. So she's trying to run away from the memories. Being nice to people outside. In fact, everything outside, when she first gets outside every day, there's like a guy that checks her out. There's a girl asking to sign a thing about global warming. People sitting on the lawn, then the sprinklers go off on them. Pledge week for these frat boys, one passes out. So she signs the thing for global warming, tells people sprinklers about to go off. puts a pillow under the guy that falls asleep. And then eventually she does find out who the killer is. And then she's got to stop him. Think of like the South Park episode, The Death of Eric Cartman from season 9, where he thinks if he does one great thing, he'll stop being dead, even though he's not dead in the whole episode. I guess I'll get into spoilers. Can I recommend this as a Blumhouse film? Absolutely. Yes, it is one of the better Blumhouse films. As a slasher film, I can recommend it for its originality and its acting. But, well, I mean, Halloween wasn't bloody, sure. But that movie had a lot more going for it. If a slasher film isn't going to be bloody, make it atmospheric, make it, have really good scares. Like I always talk about, Andy in the kitchen on the phone, we see him in the background, and there's no music sting. It's, create a creep factor. Which, this is a comedy, so it's not really going for scares as much. But as a slasher film, I can't really recommend it, apart from its originality. So, but as far as my enjoyment, sure, I guess I can recommend it. So getting into spoilers, there's this convicted serial killer who escapes from the hospital. And this definitely feels like an 80s slasher or horror film. She gets to the hospital, most of the lights are out, there's like one nurse, no doctors, almost abandoned. She keeps trying to stop and kill him from, both escaping, I guess that's like her one big good deed, but also to save herself. Because even when she gets away, there's even a part when she drives, like she gets taken to the hospital, she steals a car and gets away, but then she gets pulled over, tells the cop she's drunk so that she can be taken to jail and be safe, but then the cop gets run over and is by the killer. So it takes a few tries. Once you figure out who he is, it does take a few tries to get to him again. In fact, there's even a moment where the killer kills the Carter kid, and she has the upper hand on him, and she decides to kill herself so that she can start over and he'll be alive. So that's one of her moments of redemption as far as being a person. Eventually, she does kill the killer, but she wakes up again in the same day, and that's when she realizes, oh, okay, it wasn't him. It was her sweet and innocent roommate, dorm mate, because she's always mean to her, rude to her. She's treated like a normal person, like a less pretty MTV Kardashian girl. She doesn't keep up with the Kardashians, I guess. She works as like a nurse or a CNA or whatever. Every day she gives her a cupcake with a candle in it, but she never eats it. She starts off really rude, like, yeah, I'm not going to eat that. But each day she doesn't eat it. Eventually she gets closer, but she still doesn't. And then she realizes, oh, you've been the killer this whole time. You work at the hospital where the killer was kept. And you used that to your advantage, make everyone think it was him, but it was actually you, and this cupcake is poisoned. And she's correct. One, because she's a bitch, and two, she, I guess, kept fucking her boyfriend. So they get in a fight. She gets kicked out the window. Which, when she gets kicked out the window and lands, we see this one girl sitting on the steps listening to music. We do see, like she falls, lands, and when she falls below the frame, we see a little bit of blood go. So, there's our PG-13 blood. And eventually she does wake up. It's the next day. She is with Carter. They start dating. And then that's the end of the movie. And it must have killed Blumhouse to not be able to do their final shot jump scare, but I actually hope someone kind of started grinding their teeth or foaming at the mouth because like Jason Blum, like, we gotta do our sinister Bagul jump scare or else it's not a horror movie. Well, turns out you can do it, Blumhouse. This is how you do it. You don't have to put that stupid Bagul jump scare at the end of every movie. So Happy Death Day, it has good acting. I do like the character's arc, going from a piece of shit to a good person. Definitely praise its originality. You know, you would have thought by now there would have been some sort of Groundhog Day meets a slasher film. So I actually would have said Happy Birthday to Me meets Groundhog Day. At first I wasn't going to call this a slasher film. I was like, there's no way it's a slasher film. It doesn't have a body count. And I'm like, oh, it does. But the pile of victims is just the same person over and over and over again. Very interesting idea. I wish it would have just, been taken off its leash so it can really just go crazy. Because from what I've heard, I haven't seen the sequel yet. I know it's a lot different than this. I don't know if it's rated R or not, but I know they really go crazy with the concept of this. But I don't know. I think it's the same girl, and I don't know if it's rated R. But if you're gonna do a slasher film, let its balls drop and be a slasher film. But other than that, I do praise the originality. I praise the acting, praise the writing. I do give it that. But yeah, I guess I do dislike a lot of the characters are unlikable. Definitely it's watered down nature, and I don't love it as much, because every time this movie comes up, it seems like everybody loves it. I don't love it. I might even put this in the tad overrated category. But I can say I enjoyed it. I say I was entertained. I enjoyed it enough. Will it be something that I rewatch anytime soon? Maybe not, but yeah, there's another slasher film. Wouldn't call it Renaissance, because it's not really bringing the 80s back, except for, I guess, the look of the killer, which is silly, some of the stalk and slash scenes, and the hospital being completely deserted, very unrealistically. So yeah, not a Renaissance slasher. Hell, it even has iPhones, so it's not a movie like Terrifier or even Thriller. Do I dare consider that one? Yeah, Happy Death Day, I can say I enjoyed. So, yeah. Thanks for watching.